welcome to the Munchkin Minute, your bi-weekly look into some tabletop gaming news and more. I'm your host, Dan, the Board Game Man, and this is your news for May 13th, 2024. There's going to be a shorter show this week as kind of news slows down a bit in this area right before Origins, but still a little early for the last-minute release announcements. I got a couple announcements that are kind of close to there, but we still haven't gotten hit with a lot of the news that, will be the big releases. And maybe I'll see if I can do a top 5 to try and buy from Origins once we start getting that list kind of coming out and stuff. So maybe next show I'll have a bunch more news for Origins, but we'll see what we have today for you. So first up, we got some information on the latest Ticket to Ride expansion. So Days of Wonder is going to be releasing the new Ticket to Ride expansion, Ticket to Ride Iberia and South Korea. This will be out in June. For about $45. So yeah, still probably right around that Origins Day. But, basically this is one that's kind of a mass market a lot of times, and you'll see it in, I'm sure at friendly local game stores. So anyway, this one leans more into the drafting of destinations. So it's pretty cool. You're kind of drafting like 6 destination tickets and then keeping 4 of them, and you'll be doing that a couple of times. And then you're figuring out which ones you're going to want the destinations you want to go to. They've also have these festival cards that will be coming out so that you're going to be collecting those as you're making these destinations to different cities. So it seems pretty cool. So both Iberia and South Korea kind of take a different approach to the whole drafting thing. But I do like how Ticket to Ride is kind of making things a bit different with each one of these new expansions. Some of the middle expansions kind of got a little stalish. But now the latest one, especially with the, with them having the legacy, and now this one with some cool drafting to it, with some cool maps. It's very cool keeping it fresh. That's very hard to do. They kept Ticket to Ride pretty fresh lately. That's hard to do when a game's been out this long. So next up, after a huge Kickstarter over, I think it was $1.5 million last year, Leader Games is going to be releasing Arcs later this year. I think that's going to be around Essen, but I think it should be out over here at the same time. It should be about $60, and that is going to be Arcs. So this is an interesting kind of sci-fi strategy game. You're going to have 2 to 4 players, plays in about 90 minutes. So kind of an interesting kind of strategy, kind of battling in a way game for about midweight. It's a little lighter than some of their other stuff, but it's still a midweight. Might be a little lighter than Oath, but it is still a midweight game and kind of a different feel than all of those. So this is, of course, from Cole Worley and Leader Games. What you're going to do is you're kind of doing multi-use cards like a lot of their other games. You're kind of copying the leader. You're going to be using new tactics to take the initiative for different rounds to try and get, the lead in, or being able to go first, because that's going to be a very important thing in this type of game, with kind of the different Navy strategy and moving things around the board and such, and then rolling some dice. So actually, it's a pretty cool game. Should be a decent price point, and Leader Games always has some really good, kind of their production value is always excellent. So I think this one will be a solid one to check out. I didn't pick it up on the Kickstarter, but it does look like one that I may want to be interested in once it does come out later this year. And since a lot of people are starting to get their Kickstarter copy, I wonder if this summer I'll be able to get a play of it now that it's starting to, I think, come in with a lot of people. So next up, another franchise that keeps adding more and more expansions, and unfortunately, I stopped getting them a long time ago, but I still love the game. No matter how much I love the game, I stopped getting expansions a while ago, but that is Dominion. But there's still a huge fan base for sales for the game, and again, it is a great game, but I mean, outside of the Steam game, which I love, you should really pick this one up on Steam, because it plays so great, and playing the AI is just amazing to do. It's a lot of fun. So Dominion Online, just definitely check that out. Or I guess not Dominion Online, but it's the online Steam version of Dominion. Check that out. Anyway, Rio Grande is going to be releasing the next expansion for Dominion. This will be out sort of this summer. I think late Q2 is when they said it was going to be out. This will be Dominion Rising Sun. It should be about $45. Another 300 cards with 25 new Kingdom card piles. There are going to be shadow cards that come out from your deck and prophecies that'll someday happen and change everything. And they say debt and events happen as well. And I believe this is the 16th expansion to Dominion. That's amazing that they've got this many expansions. So to keep the game that fresh, again, I like the game kind of showing its age a little bit with deck building, kind of with some of the rules and stuff, but they do kind of innovate pretty well on the base game of playing Dominion. And this past week, we had May the 4th be with you, of course. And after all the Shatterpoint that I've been mentioning lately, Atomic Mass teased another set. So Atomic Mass teased This Is Some Rescue squad pack for Star Wars Shatterpoint. They're going to have pre-orders open in a couple of weeks in June 3rd. It should be about $40. I think that's all these squad packs are, about $40. And as you might expect, with it being This Is Some Rescue, you're going to have Princess Leia, Han, Luke, and Han and Luke are both dressed as stormtroopers, and Chewbacca is right there as well. It says, hey, come to Discord and hit me up or on Twitter. Let me know if you played Shatterpoint and what you think of it. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know we have a lot of people that play kind of war-type games and do love painting minis and such. So I really want to hear what you have to say about Shatterpoint, whether it's worth it to try, whether it's good to jump into, or just what you really think about it as well. So let me know there on a Major Spoilers Discord, or you can hit me up on Twitter at GeekJockDan. So finally, W. Eric Martin had a great article on Board Game Geek with a bunch of 25th century games that'll be releases coming out the rest of this year and into 2025. One of these being Grand Central Skyport. This is kind of a card-based tableau building with a rondell. This is by Dan Germain. This is kind of, it says drafting tycoons to your Skyport will bring unique advantages in manipulating your docked airships, as well as additional scoring opportunities at the end of the game. So you're going to be operating these airship stations and bringing in tycoons to your city, and then you're going to bring new airships. And then, depending on which colors and which slots you're putting them in, you're going to get different powers and get scoring more points. 2 to 4 players, one of these super fillers at about an hour as well for that one. They've got another pretty cool game called Sand Art that's designed by Kory Jordan that looks pretty cool, where it's kind of like almost like a flip and draw, where you'll be kind of using colored pencils to draw in on sand art in a bottle. They've got another one called Big Sur, a 2 to 4 player card game from Mondo Davis. That you'll be cruising along Route 1 on the Big Sur Coast Highway. And then a few great games that it looks like from titles. I think these will actually be later this year. They've licensed some titles from the Korean publisher Plate, and that's going to be available. These will all be available at Gen Con. I'll probably cover these a little bit more once we get close to it. But these are pretty cool designers here. You've got Circus, Flohcati, and Penguin Party by Reiner Knizia, Vampire Queen by Wolfgang Kramer, Jalape-NO by Kramer and Kiesling, and Tasso Banana by Philippe, Proux, and Junghee Choi. I'll try to put links to all of those as well, but I'll have a link to the Eric Martin post, so you'll see all these games as well in the show notes. Let's head on over to crowdfunding. Let's start off with Game Found this week. Usually I start off with Kickstarter, but we'll go to Game Found this week. So first up, Long Dark Sea. This is a pretty cool looking adventure card game. It has a steep price though. Looks like it's about 120 euros to get in on this one, but it does look really cool. It's got a cool sci-fi universe, and it's got a really cool solo. It's got cooperative and a campaign mode, which, as you know, right up my alley, with some absolutely amazing art to it. So it looks like a pretty cool game with a ton of cards in there. Absolutely love this type of game. So check that one out. Again, that one is called Long Dark Sea. Next up, this is kind of another reprint. This has got about 2.5 weeks to go. This is called Ice Unlimited. So this was a big game last year. I never really played it, but it looks really cool. And it's got a really interesting kind of very interesting game model or game mechanics, if you will, where you're kind of breaking through the ice. Uses a 1 to 5 player game, plays in about 90 minutes, and designed by Samson FP and Hugo F. So what's cool about this one is, as you're kind of making the game up, it's very, very variable in a setup in which kind of there's different layers to the ice. So you've got a bottom layer, a middle layer, and a top layer of the ice. But as you're playing the game, you're picking off different pieces of the ice and very randomized ways that you're going up. Very cool. It is one of these cool innovations that you see every now and then in game design. That you don't see them too often, but every now and then something really cool kind of comes out. I guess a lot of times things cool, but this is one that I think is very innovative as well. This is another one that is kind of 129 euros. So it is a little pricey, but you can't beat the production value of a game like this. Very cool. Definitely check that one out on Game Found. Next up, another kind of reprint. We're going over to Kickstarter now for a few of these. Canvas Big Box. Now, Canvas is a really cool game with kind of those kind of see-through cards see-through plastic cards where you're kind of making the different paintings. It's a really cool game. And kind of the way they do it, I really like those kind of the way cards are when they do it like that, where it's kind of see-through and you kind of stack them on top of each other and it changes what the cards are. Some games do this really good. Really well. John D. Clare had a really cool trick-taking game in which you're kind of crafting cards. And of course, Mystic Vale does this very, very well. But anyway, back to Canvas. They've got a big box they have got now, and they've got some new cards. It's an interesting campaign, and this campaign is going on for about another 2.5 weeks. It is well funded. Now, you can get it in where you can get just the new cards for $10. You can get just the big box for $34. Now, you're going to have to remember this. Now, if you have Canvas, you may want just the big box for all the stuff, and that's $34. But that does not come with the game. So be careful when you are backing, because you've got in the big box and the new cards for $44. Then you can get the base game for $49. Then you can get everything. Actually, I don't even know if that comes with the base game, comes with the new big box, which is weird because it's really a little bit confusing. I think you have to get the 117 to get all the additions and then the expansions and probably the big box as well. I believe with that one, or the complete Canvas connection actually has everything you want with the big box, 149 there. So this is a really cool game. I guess if you've got it, it's probably going to be the best value just to get the big box if you've got it and got some of the extras, want some of those extras, or if you have the expansion with it. So anyway, about 2.5 weeks to go. And well funded there and decent prices there. Here's one that every now and then, again, I like the little engine that could. This is a small project that I thought was pretty cool. This has got about 3 weeks to go. This is called Mad Matchup, the card game. It's kind of a family fun card game for 2 to 6 players. Again, it's only about $20 from Under Tree Games. So I thought this one was cute. It's very familiar type gameplay where you're matching either kind of symbols or colors and trying to get rid of your cards as you're messing with other people, but in a very fun way. This doesn't feel all that backstabby. But this is actually an interesting one. But for $20, you could do a lot worse for $20 here. But definitely check this one out. Mad Matchup, the card game, once again by Under Tree Games. And you got about 3 weeks to go. And it wasn't a very high to get published, but let's help them out a little bit more. See if we can get them a little bit more for the bang for their buck there. Next up, House of Fado by Vital Lacerda and Joe Quintela Martins. This has got a little bit less than a week to go, but I do absolutely love Vital Lacerda. This is kind of another one where they're talking about kind of a small box game of the Gallerist. This kind of takes a lot of that and distills it down into a 1 hour wonder for 1 to 4 players. This is by Eagle Games. You can get in on this one for about $48. Now, Vital is pretty good at these smaller. I think Mercado de Lisboa was one of his first smaller box games, which was kind of a bigger version of kind of his a smaller version of his bigger box game, and distills the gameplay down into the smaller game. So that's what this one looks really cool as you're kind of operating a restaurant and you're attracting different musicians to it to try and get more people to come in there. I really like kind of the mechanics of this one, and $48, not a bad price there at all. And the art is very unique art. I kind of like it, but I think it might not be for everybody, but I do think it is very cool. So anyway, check that one out. House of Fado. Next up, we've got Children of Morta, the board game. This is apparently based on a video game I've never heard of, but must be pretty popular. They got a board game of it. And a lot of times when you have an IP game like this, you kind of don't really have, great design pedigree. But looking at the game, being a co-op game and the way it's kind of bag building co-op, I really like the cooperative aspect of the bag building. It looks really cool. So I've got to give Amir Salamati a lot of credit for a really cool game design here. I really think this one looks decent. 1 to 4 players, plays in about an hour. And I think that since there is kind of campaigny version, that's going to be probably 1 hour to get through each one of these different versions. And again, only about $45 to get in on that. So not too bad. There's a Goddess Pledge, which is going to get you an expansion. That one's going to be about $85 US. And then there's a Divine's Pledge for about $116 with all the extra kind of pimped out bits and stuff like that. This one looks really cool. So then this is by Rumi's Games. And again, this is funded in about 3 weeks to go. Now, finally, this is an interesting one. So this is kind of one of these, I'm going to sound like I'm picking on it, but I do love cribbage. So here's somebody, and a lot of times you see these games where people come up with kind of the, taking chess into new directions and stuff like that. And a lot of times they get very derivative, but sometimes they come out pretty good, like the Duke and some of these others. But anyway, this is Wicked Cribbage. This is about 2.5 to 3 weeks to go. It is well funded. This is by the Only Then Studios, and you get on it for only $20. So that's kind of worth it. But here's my thing. Like when you're changing up a game and they're kind of adding some things to cribbage as you're kind of playing the showdown where you're trying to get the 15 and 30 and 1 and such, as you're playing it and as you're going around the board, you're going to be getting these other cards that are going to have, let you cheat in a way, let you do other things. That's fine and all. My biggest complaint about this game is that if you're going to put out a cribbage set, have a damn scoring board in there with the base pledge. You got to pay $74, $75 to get the cribbage starter set just to get a board in on it. And man, just give me a version with a cribbage board. I don't even think the $50 one has an art print of Sir John Suckling's pet peeves as we will design together, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look like it just says Whippet Cribbage, Luck Lover Expansion, Strategy Lover Expansions, and art print for $50. Man, just give me a cribbage board. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Anyway, it does look like a cool game, and I think I might check it out because it's only $20. And my wife and I really loved cribbage. It's a really cool game that's just, if you've never played cribbage, it's just one of those old-timey kind of card games. That's great one-on-one card game that you can just sit there while you're watching TV and play. Very easy game. There's a lot of different versions, as I learned coming to the South. There's a lot of different ways to play cribbage and spades and such. So there's a lot of different ways to play it all over the country. But Wicked Cribbage may bring that little bit extra that you want out of kind of a card game or out of a updated version, but just better have your own cribbage board, or maybe they're cheaper somewhere online. Anyway, that's about it for today. Thanks for joining me. If you see any news you think I'd like to feature, shoot me a message at GeekJockDan on Twitter, and please check out theMajorSpoilers.com for more content by Steven and the rest of the Major Spoilers crew, and also check out my show, the Geek All Stars podcast. So I'll be back in a couple of weeks for another Munchkin Minute.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.